Always just making sure. So it says we're live over here. At the moment it pops up, we can just dive straight in. We've got a couple of people already waiting, so that's good news. Okay, great. There we are. All right, happy Friday, everybody. A warm welcome from Dominik and myself from Everable.
Hi, everyone.
I'm Ryan, and I specialize in B2B outreach, so a lot of the time I'm the first point of contact between the business and Everable. And we're joined by the CEO today, Dominik.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you again, Ryan.
Yeah, always nice to see you, Dominik. Always nice. We were just chatting about how lucky you are that you're staying in Croatia and how nice the weather is. So you're saying a warm hello this Friday all the way from Croatia.
Definitely.
Nice. All right, so today's topic, we're going to have a little overview of what Glenn Wilson describes as the 3 layers overview, talking about education, first of all, security education, and then layer 2, which is secure by design, and layer 3, good morning to everyone, nice, okay. Layer 3, security automation. Now, essentially, and once again, I'll explain why I'm constantly saying these are the words from Glenn Wilson, because before this call, Dominik was explaining to me that he has a similar way of explaining it. So, for instance, this might not be the terms that you use to describe your DevSecOps processes, but it's still quite relevant, I think. Essentially, these are the 3 layers that are used as the foundation upon which effective DevSecOps should be built. Now, I've got a few notes here, so I just want to kind of lay the foundation of this conversation. So security is quite a broad topic. We've got data security, network security, physical security, and cryptography. Now, I didn't have the time to Google cryptography. Do you have any sort of could you break that down for me? Do you have any information on cryptography at all?
I think the most easiest explanation is basically encryption, right, of data. So when we transmit data, we don't want people watching, so we encrypt it, right? So that not anyone can just have a peek and see what we're talking about. So that will be the most, easiest explanation, I would say. And if your data is stored somewhere, you also don't want it to be in plain text, but you want some kind of encryption, and different kinds of cryptography are being used in order to properly secure that data, and you have less secure algorithms and more secure ones.
Okay, nice. That's a very good explanation. All right, so we're going to be having a look at the 3 layers that help DevOps teams incorporate security while also remaining focused on functional requirements of the products they're developing and delivering, right? Okay, sorry, we're having a few technical difficulties. I want to make sure that everyone can hear us.
Mm-hmm.
On our side, it seems to be all right. Let me see on LinkedIn. We can just dive straight in. Yeah, I think it must be just speaking to Vijay and the 2 comments there. I can hear it fine from my side on LinkedIn, so just check that your audio is all good. But without further ado, I think let's dive into it. So the general outline, I referred to it as the 3 layers: security education, secure by design, and security automation. You had a bit of a few different terms that you referred to it. I think it was people, process, and
technology.
Yeah.
Right. So I think in essence it's the same, but like you said, right? Everyone has their own kind of terms that they feel familiar with, and for me, it's really people, processes, tools. That's how I've also been explaining it to other people, and I think it covers pretty much the most important pillars.
Yeah, and you were also mentioning to me the importance of the right culture.
Yeah.
what do you mean when you say the right culture when it comes to DevSecOps and that position, the position of DevSecOps in an organization?
Yeah. Well, I mean, any successful DevSecOps implementation needs to start with culture and people, right? Because from a very traditional point of view, security has also was always the kind of department, sitting in the White Tower saying no to everyone, and that's the thing that needs to change. Right. So instead of becoming it really an exclusive thing, it needs to be inclusive, right? And for that, you need to have the right culture in your company to embrace that. So instead of working in these silos, working in these ivory towers, there needs to be collaboration. No separate departments, no silos, and people have to work together in order to get quicker feedback on how they can improve, and instead of throwing it over the wall back and forth, that's one of the things that's probably the most important thing, because in the end the human factor, right, decides if it's going to be successful or not as well, right? Because you can have all kinds of tools, all kinds of processes, but in the end, if someone gives away, for example, their password, it's always the human factor that comes into play. So
people make mistakes. It happens. Maybe you haven't had enough coffee, or it's been a long day and you mistype something. It happens. Mistakes do happen. And I think the way I understood that is when you said culture, it's also important to have this feeling of openness, that you can speak, open and freely in a company. And I know, especially working in Everball, that's something that we strongly live by, is the ability. For instance, my job and your job are completely different, but I can speak openly to you whenever, and it's always heard. That's a very important thing. So,
and to comment on that, if a company is suffering a breach and people are too afraid to mention something about it, right, then you can also not as a team work together on a solution, because if it's kind of kept in the dark and kept hidden, then it can maybe only further escalate. So you really need to have a culture where people are not afraid to speak up, so that it can be solved quicker. So that's very
interesting.
important.
I'm not sure if this relates to culture, but this might be sort of controversial. But I saw a LinkedIn post this morning about, do you recall Uber having a data breach, I think a week or two ago? Their CISO went to jail. And it's, they were talking about this culture that essentially security is just his responsibility, when as a matter of fact, it's not. There's a lot of executives as well that kind of like to be excluded from the conversation. Well, you deal with that. But I think another thing with a healthy DevSecOps culture is having everyone involved and everyone understanding the risks. I mean, you made a comment on the risks as well earlier. But so
remember, right? We have been saying it many times. Security is everyone's responsibility, right? Of course, there are people in the end, on the top that are probably, going to be impacted the most when something happens, because they are responsible. But it cannot, a one person cannot maintain the security for a whole company, right?
No.
It's everyone's responsibility to help with that.
I was chatting to a prospect in a similar environment, and he was saying that, I'm obviously not going to reveal any names or companies or anything like that, but that he's the main security point in his organization, and that a lot of the people, their security knowledge isn't up to speed. So he's kind of treated as the go-to guy, and you can imagine the amount of pressure and stress that puts on a person. And then when things go wrong, inevitably they're going to point the finger. But as a matter of fact, it's almost the other way around. It's like, no, I'm the only one doing this. Like there's something wrong here. And I think that also ties in with the culture. But let's I want to bring it back to the 3 layers, or as you said, people, processes, and technology. So layer 1 is security education. Everyone involved in DevOps should know how security affects what they do. And everyone should have the motivation and the resources to put security at the heart of what they're doing. So that's almost verbatim from Glenn Wilson's book.
Yeah, but I mean that's exactly what we're just. Security is everyone's responsibility. So that means that you also need to acquire the right knowledge, in order to help, with that.
Yeah.
And you need to stay up to date, with the latest technologies, the latest trends, and I understand, right? This can be quite challenging, especially when people, everyone is super busy in the IT sector, and it can be challenging to keep up, But that's why you need to have, the right means in place to do that. Yeah, it needs to be as easy as possible.
Yeah, I think that's it ties in quite nicely to what our company is doing. With we were chatting, Petra and I. Petra, you saw in a couple of other videos. For anyone that's watching, it doesn't work at Everable. That a lot of courses and things like that are teaching people how to do security and DevOps. Some of them have the wrong approach. I would like to say it might be controversial, but this is just my belief. And I'm sure a lot of other people feel this way as well. That it's not a case of watching 8 hours, 10 hours worth of videos and then having a multiple choice questionnaire at the end.
Yeah.
And then bang, you get a fancy sticker or a certificate. Like that's not an effective way of learning. So I think it's also important to identify effective education.
Yeah. And I mean, this what you were just mentioning can be right, but depending on the target audience, right? If you talk about engineers that need to implement something, then probably that's not the way. If you talk about, I don't know, people at the reception, that get emails, that they need the kind of, they need different kind of training, and maybe their videos, helps because of the explanation. So you always need to have the right type of learning, for the right target audience.
No, very well said. Yeah. And then I think we can move on to a nice explanation of layer 2, which is secure by design, right? So you need to demonstrate that your teams are applying their security knowledge and applying good design principles throughout the process of automation. Now, for you, it was people, processes. Sorry, I keep forgetting. I'm so used to having the different layers. But does that kind of sound similar to your processes term?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in the end, the processes, or the second layer, how you call it, secure by design, it connects the people and the tools.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the factor between the first layer, the last layer. The layer in between connects those two together. If you don't have that properly set up, then also, it will be difficult. If you don't have the right processes to look at issues, if you don't have the right processes to speak up when there is an incident, it will not work. And when you talk about secure by design, then the first thing that comes into my mind is proper threat modeling, right? So how to identify your risks. You are following a process in order to make sure that you're not missing anything, or missing as less as possible, right? Because we can never be 100% secure, but we can do everything that that we can in order to minimize the risks.
Yeah, I think I've got it in my LinkedIn bio. That security is never perfect, but if your security is good enough, it's like let's say security on your car, right? If you've got enough security on your car, a criminal that's trying to maybe steal your car or steal what's inside of it, if your car is secure enough, it's not going to stop them, but they'll sure look for an easier target, And
Exactly.
I think that really accurately describes the nature of cybersecurity and cyber attacks, is that there's pretty much nothing you can do. Sorry, let me just mute that. to prevent it completely. You've just got to make sure that your car is properly secured, or your organization. Yeah.
You don't have to make it more easier, right? Than it should be.
Yeah, exactly. All right, then we go on to layer 3, which is security automation. So automation is at the core of secure DevOps, and automated security testing needs to be embedded within its core. Now, like I've made it very clear throughout the previous chats, and I'm no cybersecurity expert. I'm learning, and I'm loving it because I'm learning so much. But I think I would like you to kind of explain that to me in a bit more detail. When I say automation is at the core of secure DevOps, and automated security testing needs to be embedded within its core, the way I understand it is that, throughout your DevOps process, you have to have automated security checks.
Yes, that's completely true. And I think the most easiest example I can give you in order to understand this concept is think about a company like Amazon.
Yeah.
Right? A huge company. They are deploying maybe 50,000 times a day their products. So they are putting 50,000 times a day a new version of their product live to customers.
Wow.
Maybe it's even more now. So can you imagine if there would be someone that needs to check manually every time for security issues when a new deployment comes in?
Yeah.
It doesn't work. So you need to automate it. So that's
Okay.
the most easiest explanation I can give you.
That's a great explanation.
It doesn't scale otherwise.
Yeah. No, for sure. Of course. So, all right. Well, I think we're going to try and keep it down to 20 minutes. We've got 3 minutes left. Essentially the goal of today's chat was just to kind of outline these 3 layers. The goal moving forward for the next one, which will be on I'm not sure the date exactly, but in 2 weeks from now, we're going to dive deeper into layer 1, which is security education. Talk about the importance of security education, different methods, and just essentially going over why it is so important.
21st of October.
21st of October. There we go. Thank you. Yeah. You'll see it all over my LinkedIn. I'll share it tons of times. And if there's any questions from anyone watching, now would be a great time to share if you have any statements or any opinions on what we just spoke about.
And I think it's nice, to set the stage now for these 3 layers or 3 pillars, and then in the next sessions, dive a little bit more deeper into these separately. I think that's very nice.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions from my side, so hopefully everyone's just completely agreeing with what we're saying.
Yeah, and I mean, people can also rewatch it later on, right? So then if people have questions, then maybe we can take it up into the next chats. And I think that in summary, I would say definitely people and culture is very important, because that's the first layer, right? So you start with that, and then to make it successful, you implement the other layers after that.
Yes. It's the foundation. It really, really is, and the foundation is everything. We learned this. I learned this in primary school. It's all if you want to build a house, you've got to have the foundation laid properly, or 5 years, 10 years down the line, that house is just going to come crumbling down. And I think the same goes for organizations and security. All right. Thank you, Dominik. We've managed to outline this quite nicely in 20 minutes. It's been very nice chatting to you. Thank you to everyone that joined. Wishing you all a happy Friday. And to you as well, Dominik. Always nice to see you. Always nice to chat to you.
Thanks, Ryan. And I wish everyone a very nice day ahead. And then hopefully see you soon.
Yep. All right then.
Okay, bye-bye.